Oh, Mike's gonna die. How does he know? I guess it's the combined knowledge of the eternal darkness. Tome keeps making people know more and more about how it works and how fucked they are. Ah. This one was genuinely out of her control. That's interesting. Ah! I forgot they're here now. One second. There we go. Gotta get that rune going, or it'll pay in the long term. There we go. Stop crying, game. Stop it. Bye. Don't really need to deal with you, do I? Okay, so this whole time we were waiting for the Great Conjunction to occur. The Great Conjunction is the end of the world. Or the beginning? And begin. All the same. Big change. You can go up and down. This one must be the one that needs a new one. No? I have not needed a crankshaft yet. Maybe there? There we go. Yeah, that pretty much went how I figured it would from the first time we looked at it. It was clearly missing a beam of light. Oh, sweet, my Grubhub's here. Just in time before I solved the Scooby-Doo mystery. It's just a big order of, I don't know, ramen or something. A package wrapped in brown paper has been left inside the door. I would order ramen. That seems like it would one of the things that would travel least well. I guess they just put it in like a sealed container. I don't know. I've never ordered ramen before as a delivery. A parcel wrapped in plain brown paper. It is not addressed to anyone and appears to have been wrapped in a hurry. There might be something inside. But what? Now we have Chaturga. And the Gladius. That's why it was so long. How did they both fit in there? I don't know. It worked out. As expected, I now have the Super Gladius. I'm glowy. I'm glowy. And it's specifically enchanted with the element that I've been using all game because it's strong against the stuff we're fighting. There we go. There we go. Well, now they're really fucked because I've got like the super weapon. I got distracted. Where was I trying to go? Oh, right, yeah. The weird vault. With the lid removed, some kind of well-like entranceway is revealed. A ladder leads down into the murky darkness. Was this Edward's route into the Guardian City? What could go wrong? Yeah, I totally fucked up. I got distracted by my delivery and immediately, for at least for a moment, forgot what the cutscene was that I had seen just before. Alex cannot climb this ladder because the shaft above has been sealed. Perhaps by Maximilian Ravois all those years ago. Is that the one that has that one? Oh. As the tome had suggested, by Edward's and Maximilian's words, the city exists and is far more incredible than Alex had thought. Here are the ruins of Enga, the corpse city, parasitized by the guardians of Ulyoth. 9 great towers dwarf the surrounding buildings. It would appear these towers serve as some kind of focusing array, channeling great tides of energy into the city itself. We cast the big great dispel magic spell, but that was not the big thing that solved everything. Problems persist. Is this eternal? Yeah, is this darkness eternal? Like, is Alex gonna also have to leave notes for her children to then solve this problem again 50 years from now? On like an endless loop? The whole floor is a damage field. Rude. But it's not a danger room apparently, or at least no enemies exist yet, because it doesn't count as a thing I need to... where I can't save. Shield, level 7. Pargon. You actually, because you can recognize the runes, I can actually pick out when it's gonna say Pargon. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Is this rude? Dispel magic. Pargon. Fuck. What? What? No. Okay, fuck it. I'm just gonna load my save. Alright. Apparently she was still standing in the damage field, the force field. She was apparently still standing in it when I was casting, so she got hit by it again. So while my shield should have lasted, because it takes a while to get killed by the floor, it got wiped out by the force field. And so I was just gonna die at that point. I don't think I was gonna be able to make it back in time. Okay, spell list, dispel magic. Fuck, really? Dude. Alright. Honestly, this entire game's magic system's kind of just irritating. Like, whenever there's any kind of friction, it just becomes really frustrating really quickly. What do you want? What do you want from me, game? What are you hoping is gonna happen here? Did I just need to stop? Did I just need to cast it faster or something? The best I can think is that maybe like, it was getting there. It's like maybe I ran too far before trying to start my spell casting. Spell magic. Alright, yeah, it made it. It was close that time too. What an unnecessarily tight timing window. Alright, get out, get out! Alright, it's not damage fielded here, so we're good. Thankfully, she has very large meters. Ulyoth. Alright. So I'm in the process of healing. This pedestal's broken. The podium is heavily damaged, crumbling into rubble and dust. If it is to be used, it must somehow be restored to its former state. Is that the rest of it? Or part of it? That's part of it. So I must be able to mix them and enchant them. Yeah, because if I mix them together, they'll become one item but broken, and then if I enchant that, it'll become fixed. How much do we have so far? That appears to be all of it. Okay. Chant item. Long ago, Edward Ravois used the arrays to destroy the denizens of the Guardian City. Alex needs to match the power of the Lich and destroy the ancients he plans on bringing into the world. Okay, so Edward blew up all the people here apparently, but not well enough because they're still attacking me or something. Alex needs to match the power of the Lich. So am I doing a summoning spell? A 9-point summoning spell? It sounds like it. Can't use that right now. Why? These plinths look like the ones Pius had encountered in the Forbidden City, where found the essences of the ancients. Am I supposed to put these back? Ah. These are the items. Why can't I use this? I can use it. It just wouldn't a minute. Maybe because I was standing behind it? Maybe I had to be in front of it? There we go. That's a big deal. Pargon, 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 Oh, they're gonna make me do this again, aren't they? I don't want to. I don't want to. The idea of casting a really giant spell in a city via all of its towers is cool, but fuck, man. There's so much running in this process. And is she better at running than the other guy was? That fucking nerd? I assume we're casting a summoning spell this time. That just makes sense. Okay. As cool as my weapon is, these guys need to be shot with guns. Just for reliability's sake. It's just way harder to hit them with a melee weapon. It's a 5-shot revolver. I thought they were 6-shot. I guess they're gonna be both though, I think, yeah. First up, Pargon. Maybe they'll give me a mercy and they'll just teleport me back into the previous chamber instead of having to go through several other rooms. Nope. Nope. Are all the levers pre-pulled this time? Wow. That's distressing. Last time there was a pit, I needed to do reveal invisible. Chaturga. Okay. Can I just leave? No, because this is a dead end, and this one the X is on the left. No, I think reveal invisible is correct. I did do a red kind of on accident. This is a red room, so maybe it's a red invisibility spell, so maybe I have to cast a blue reveal spell. They don't even let me inspect it. Like, there's no info to kind of clue me along. So it's not an invisible... It's not an invisible, floor. I don't really have special items that seem relevant, so what spells? Enchant item, recover, and reveal invisible, summon trapper, dispel magic, damage field, shield, summon zombie, magic attack, bind, magic pool, summon a horror. None of them necessarily sound like they would actually get me past the pit. Come on. I haven't tried blue yet. Or did I try blue last time? Oh, yes, I just said it. Da 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 da. Whoa. There we go. It had to be green. Did I not try green before? Whatever. Oh, lever's still pulled. Yeah, I can't... Usually I try green first, but yeah, I guess in this case I did try red first, because I just clicked on the first one that came up on accident. And then I tried doing blue because the room was red, so maybe that was the weakness, but... Honestly, I'm disappointed by the elements in this game. I think that's an underutilized mechanic among many underutilized mechanics. In this case, the problem is that when you pick the element at the beginning of the game, basically the entire campaign becomes that element. So I picked blue. So green is basically the correct answer like 90% of the time for the entire playthrough. So they made it so that one of the many reasons you can't simply like if they didn't do this, you could just hotkey these spells, and then I could just have 4 spells that are all hotkeyed to my D-pad, and I could reliably use them. But and it's only 4, but it'd still be something. There's 12 spells. But then they made it so that on top of there being 12 spells, and on top of there being 3 intensity levels of those spells, there's 3 elements of those spells. So even if we ignore the intensities, that takes the spell count from 12 to 36, which makes it incredibly convoluted and confusing, so that even if you assign a spell to your D-pad, you're like not sure if you can rely on yourself to cast it via your D-pad, because you're like, not only do you change it constantly, so it makes it hard to remember what the spells are, because they don't show any of the interface on the screen because they're trying to be immersive. But at the same time, you're like, oh fuck, but was that the one I need for the puzzle? Because like, what color, which one did I put on there? So you end up having to double check anyway. Alright, let's double check what a summoning spell is. Summon zombie. Tier R attack. R attack. Like the system would have been more sleek and reliable and less convoluted if they didn't have elements in it. Because the elements kind of unnecessarily complicate it. And like every time you cast a spell, it's just one more button you have to press every single time is picking the element. And like that complication is unnecessary because of the fact that like they didn't really make it a core gameplay mechanic. So much of the game is just the same element repeating over and over again that it just functionally doesn't really add to the complexity and intrigue of the game. Can those guys like not see me or something? Is that how it works? Like they seem aggroed on me, but they seem to not be able to actually hit me. That's interesting. When it comes to a lot of this game, like, I can respect that they tried to do a lot of things that were different and crazy. And that's probably why it's best remembered, and why there was such a reputation around this game. Because it was like a breath of fresh air. I guess that's kind of the interesting thing, actually, is a lot of the time, when I look into something that has a big reputation around it, it often ends up, at least under modern lens, being a game that is more interesting than great. Like, there are often games that don't necessarily pull off what they're going for in the best ways, and they're often not necessarily the best examples of their genre, but they are often just strange and kind of neat and, like, interesting little experiments. And so, like, the meta stuff that, especially back then, was, like, basically unused is interesting. And, like, this magic system where you craft your own spells, like, that's odd, that's different. I'm not really... I would later see this pop up in, let's save, because this looks weird. I would later see this pop up in the game Tyranny. Was a game where you craft your own spells via collecting a bunch of different components that cause the spell to be castable and then using them in conjunction to create different effects. Attached to the monolith is a metal plaque marked with a symbol that looks like a silhouette of a horror. I think this seems straightforward. They probably want me to summon a horror. That's green. I assume that when I go to the blue and red ones, they will have different symbols. A zombie and a trapper. Ooh. I'm like filling in the museum. That's interesting. Just realized I don't have my mana regeneration on. I would love for this to be a permanent effect, just because most scenarios where I need to regenerate mana are when I'm not in a danger anyway. There is no time-sensitive situation, there's no stakes, it's just me being like, alright, let's wait. Needs to be a red zombie. What's she doing all the way over there? I'm going around the symbols because there's like a force field that I can't tell if I can go through it or not. I haven't done a ton of summoning, so it might be part of why, but I haven't really noticed the force field before. I think I only really recently noticed it when I was summoning that trapper to go through that other door. Alright. We're doing laps. We're doing laps. Core gameplay mechanic. I have spent more time in this game doing laps than engaging with the element system where I'm supposed to worry about if I'm attacking people with the correct element. Hey, you little goober. That little guy totally feels like something out of Mass Effect. Like, oh, I'll check him out. Little guy wants to play. And you probably have to, like, exterminate an entire infestation of them. Like those blue monkeys, which themselves were a riff on tribbles. This is kind of another instance of like, was that necessary? It's like, oh yeah, I remember this place you've played where you had to kind of tediously go to every single part of the system. What if you have to do the whole thing again later? Because they like to reuse locations, which gives the sense of like this macro scale fight against the Lovecraft stuff. Like generally speaking, the reuse of locations in different contexts, I actually think is kind of neat because narratively it's neat because you have these characters that are encountering this stuff over the course of a series of different times, but also you get to see how these places change over time. But this is the part of that I was kind of dreading, is like, oh god, they've reused almost everything I've ever seen in this game. What if they reuse the 9-point spire circle, which is cool narratively, but a huge, tedious pain in the ass the first time? And then they do it again? You're like, oh fuck, I have to do this twice? But they're like, aha, but it's changed this time, and instead of like a major change like before, that was interesting. This time oh god. Oh, this one was, oh, it's a fake insanity effect again. This time the thing that changed instead was, oop. Do I wait for the bronze to go away? Do I have alcohol? He needed like alcohol to escape it last time, right? Or, oh, he drank alcohol because it probably recovered his sanity. There we go. But this time around, they're like, we know what changed? Is the level design didn't rearrange itself? Nothing crazy and cool happened? Nah, this time the thing that changed is, well... oh, what is it? Well, this is a problem for me. This time they're like, well, you know what changed? We added a damage field. So now every time you go to the main lobby, you have to cast a damage shield 9 times. Like, oh, wow. That really makes this level... What a unique twist on the level. I can't wait to play it for the second time. It'll be great this time. It's like last time, but with me summoning casting the shield spell 9 times. Oh, no. Okay, so I need a way... Summon Trapper, Dispel Magic, Damage Field, Enchant Item. So, like, I already have a shield around myself, right? I don't have, like, an invisibility effect, or, like, a stealth effect, or, like, a quiet effect or something. Is that the effect? Is it that I was running? Do I need to, like, be a sneaky little boy? Girl? Video game character? Maybe. There's clearly like this is the effect zone, which is this purple. Okay, so by now the screen tilted sideways a bit, so I think it is. I think they're saying the purple area is a stealth effect. But anyway, my opinions are not cut and dry and that simple either. Because on one hand, I'm bummed out they're reusing this location where I have to do the 9 laps through the towers, because that's a bummer, but on the other hand, I'm like, ooh, puzzles. It is kind of fun that it's like it's a silly little Zelda dungeon this time instead of an enemy gauntlet, because the enemy gauntlet was kind of the lesser version, in my opinion. So there's all these cute little segments like, oh, I'll try to evade the evil tentacle and stuff like that. Chaturga Ulyoth. So Ulyoth is the element of this campaign, so once again I need to do Zeloth Tath. Hop, 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 hop. I haven't saved for a bit. Just good to be on top of this. Never know when one of these puzzles will be like an instant death trap. And yeah, I think I'm sure everyone's standards for repetition are different. Like, some people will see the level being reused at all and instantly be like, ugh, bad content, don't put that in your game. But when I see the same locations being reused at different time periods, and while the environment technically has the same layout, but you navigate it differently and are solving a different puzzle and doing different things in it, then I find that kind of interesting. And so that part I think is neat. But it is important to not just make me play the same level again, which they thankfully did not do, generally speaking. So that's why I'm like kind of uniquely peeved by this, is that a significant portion of this level is me replaying the same level. Whereas until now, to varying degrees of success, the fact that the locks and keys and monsters and puzzles changed each time, in addition to the historical context and the story and the character you're playing as, until now, the repetition of levels has largely been fine. I think the one that skirts the edge the most is probably that temple that's underground, because that one changes the least in each iteration. But the church changes quite a bit, and I also like seeing the mansion in different contexts. But yeah, the underground temple, in some cases, I really am just re-navigating the same hallways and the same rooms over and over again, and that can be a bit disappointing. But they did somewhat stave this idea off by specifically doing that thing where the first time we visited most of these locations, we did visit a very small version of that location. So at first they stave off the repetition by actually having the level physically get larger the second time you visit it. But then the third time you visited it, it's largely the same place again as it was the second time. But they locked the doors differently and rearranged the challenges and puzzles and everything else. Well, that was nice of them. They told me what was happening. Because they could have totally just had the enemies be invisible and have my only clue be... I can't hit them from this distance. It could have been that my only clue that they were invisible was that I could hear them. And then after being captured once and being confused what was happening, I would then have to reveal invisible and solve it. I can't hit them. There we go. It's hard to establish line of sight with this kind of camera angle. Okay. There you are. I know I could hear. Wow, there's so many of you. Line of sight problems. No! Oh, hey, it's... the thing is here. Oh, that means the corp. Ah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, the corpse... Oh, just in time for the invisibility effect to wear off. Or see invisible. So that corpse that's there is the one that I used the trapper to teleport there. Because that corpse was blocking the door earlier in the game. And so the other... the giant wardrobe-shaped block of stone is also there now from earlier in... not this level, the previous level. Yeah, this mechanic doesn't really go anywhere. And I'm not really sure what they could have done with it. Honestly, I'm not sure how much mechanical complexity or interesting choices can be mined from, hey, the floor does damage, put a shield on. Alright, there you go. Maybe it's just the kind of half-baked mechanic that you potentially just decide not to implement after workshopping a bit and be like, nah, we can't really wring anything interesting out of this one. How loaded is my gun right now? Fine. Okay. No, I should have saved before I came in here. No! Can I save? Yes, okay. I think that means that there's gonna be 3 of the invisible guy and I have to break all of their runes. If that's the case, I should definitely equip this Gladius. I can target it, but I can't hit it. Okay, maybe it's not the invisible guys. Maybe it's just I need to use trappers again. So cast trapper. It's red, so use a blue one, I guess? Maybe I just need to summon the trapper that is the elemental weakness of each of them. I thought the fucking invisible guy from the previous chapter that siphons energy from an obelisk was gonna be here. I was gonna have to defeat him 3 times while also defeating the thing that he siphons energy from. Well, that wasn't it. You can't reach him. What? This thing can be thrown? What the f- So I must have targeted that one from across the whole map and thrown my sword at it? That's not a thing I saw coming at all. Oh my god, I could just throw my sword. Oh, I've been frozen. And like each sword I've thrown is still sticking out of him. How do I defeat it though? Or do I just have to hit each of them and maybe they keep healing each other anyway? Okay, so I can't magic attack, cast, level 7. You're red, so let's use blue. Maybe you have to just hit it with the element, but this weapon is permanently enchanted green, I think. So now they're trying to fuel... Oh, it's gone. Why is it fully gone? I only got some of them? You know what, I'll take it, man. It's defeated, whatever. I thought I only affected 2 of them. This is the left door one, I think. No, that's the lever. I went the wrong way. I must have been supposed to go towards the screen? She very tired. I guess I should recover first before I try to sprint across here. Catch a breath. And away we go. Wasn't sure where my health was at, but I was pretty sure I lost some. It's probably about time for me to finish casting the spell, by which I mean using the runes that actually determine its identity. The next one's probably Paragon. Yep. Alright. So, summon horror. Tier R attack. Yeah, so once again I need to reconfirm what tier is. So new spell. 3 point. That one. R attack. Summon Trapper. So tier is the F one, not the pi one. There we go. The year 2000. That means this game basically takes place just days after Yick, the postmodern RPG. What an honor. The whole floor is damage field now. I need to do this again. Kudos to Alex for stepping the fuck up. When everyone else that ever was involved in any part of this process all pretty much died horribly. God damn it. Yeah, you just can't hit it with melee weapons. They won't even lock onto them. I do like the quality of life thing, which is that when if you're running towards the, if you're currently running towards the portal, it doesn't change color anymore. It's really obvious. It clearly has a timing at which it changes colors, and it interrupts that timing if you let's see, Dispel Magic, level 7. If you're moving towards it, it clearly stops rotating and gives you time to run there. So you can wait for it to you can wait for it to turn purple, then start running towards it, and you'll be fine. Maybe if you're like really far away, it's eventually a problem. I think I can make it. Please. Getting a little tight. Getting a little tight. Oh. Ulioth. Paragon. Are you motherfuckers ready to cast a spell? I think it's time to cast a spell. We should leave. We just told it to summon a giant monster. Whatever we summon, I don't think it's going to be our friend. That's not how it tend to go. Ah. Aw, you drained me. It is my duty to completely drain you. Probably have to wait for one of them to die, then summon the second one, or then in my control a second one. I think some of my boredom might come from the fact that so many of these puzzles are so, like, lock and key. Like, we have demonstrated the binding spell is for specifically when these guys are behind a shield, you gotta make them fight each other to make the shield drop. We're gonna test you later when we hit you with the exact same scenario again. And it's like, whoa, wow, the same scenario from earlier. What do I do? Oh, you know, the same thing you did last time. But twice. Progress. And I'm just like, alright, well... Like, entire rooms of this area are just, you know, cast Dispel to get rid of the barrier. But the whole floor is covered in damage field, so find the one spot on the floor that's not that damage field. And it's like, alright, well, it's technically a wrinkle. But just find the one spot you can stand in and cast a spell isn't my favorite wrinkle. Was I not supposed to come? Yeah, so there is a portal here. Would you like to save your current progress? Well, that seems pretty fucking final, doesn't it? Guess what? The end.
Miss Rivers, you're just in time. The summoning spell I began 2,000 years ago is finally complete. You will now have the honor of becoming the first morsel for my lord, Ulyath. An appetizer for the banquet your race shall provide.
You forget what it means to be human, Pious. The human race will never go quietly into the darkness. For as long as you have spent summoning your lord, people have struggled against you. Now, thanks to their efforts, I have 3 of the Ancient's essences. Now, Pious, this is the end.
The end indeed.
Alright, Pious. Let's fucking do- oh, I don't even have to enchant it, it's pre-enchanted. It's a neat idea for a narrative. He's been waging this eternal war against mankind from the darkness unknown, consuming anyone that comes across his path, essentially. But humanity's been fighting back. Even if it took generations and generations to do so, and our characters kind of become the embodiment of that overall. Hello. See ya. Hey. What's that? Oh, my insanity bad. Oh, my insanity real bad. Real bad. Shit. Okay, spell list. Magic pool cast level 7 green. Faster, 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 faster. Okay, that'll fix the insanity thing a bit. Might have to wait a little bit. Stop that. I don't want too much sanity damage right now. Ow. There we go. Hey, stop that. So if I hit him with my weapon, his thingy appears. Is that the thing I picked up at the beginning of the game? What? Hello. Elia, you're back. What? How's this gonna work? Ah! Oh, now me again. Do I have to make... Oh. Does Elia give me different mechanics of some kind? I don't know what Elia does. Do I need to specifically damage it as Elia now to make progress? Or is Elia just kind of shielding me from damage whenever I'm in her... Oh, I'm not Elia now. I turned into the guy that was trying to impress his girlfriend. No, never mind. That was the guy that was trying to get to his girlfriend. Constantine? No, fuck. Constant. I forgot his name. Who was the guy in the church? He's an important historical figure. I'm pretty sure I've gotten it right every time I've tried to say his name until now. Shit. Am I doing this right? Oh, now I'm the guy with the big sword. I wonder if he would not have the big sword if I didn't get it. I think having regenerating sanity is a big deal right now. So I think they're trying to drain it, generally speaking. What's it casting? Okay. Ow. See ya. I hope I'm doing this right. I like that the rune's trying to follow me, but not very well. Where is... Okay, this next one. Well, get dunked on, bro. Oh, he's so slow. So I think I need to chain at hitting all of these in one go. Once, I missed. Oh my god, I'm so slow. I'm so fucked. There we go, I hit him that time. Is it down here now? Oh no, I think he transformed me back into Alex. This guy. Okay, so now I think I did make it, because now I'm a new guy. Okay, hitting these seems to transform me into the next form. And so I guess you have an idea of how far we are based on how many forms deep I am into the original playthrough, into the playthrough's characters. It's time for him to get his revenge for getting shoved into a fucking concrete pillar. The ever-recovering sanity seems to, have been less important than I thought. I thought it was going to drain it every time I hit it. Nothing personal, kid. Nope, we're still doing this. Okay. I broke your thingy, loser. You know what I do with zombies? I chop their heads off. It's just the only way to react. Just chop that head right off. Oh right, I have a ranged attack. I don't need to get up in there. Loser. Haha. I don't even have to be near you. Swing, buddy. Haha. Nope. Nope. Throw it. Oh, can I not throw anymore? Maybe it gets weaker over time or something. It's still... Wait, he's still casting the spell. He left the circle. That's not fair. Oh, fuck, I'm about to die. Shit. Okay, spell list. Recover, but the weakest one, because I need to go fast. Okay, okay. I specifically wanted to go fast before he can catch up with me. Haha, you didn't stop me in time. Oh, I guess he did, because that didn't really stop the damage. Need more healing energy. Okay, there we go. Quickly. My weapon's always green, go fuck yourself. Never stop swinging.
Is not so easily destroyed. No, my death is just the beginning.
What have I done?
Quickly, Alex! We must find this creature! It cannot be allowed to remain in this universe!
Absorb, project, protect. Huh. Protect?
Ah, that's the ticket.
Gross.
It is finally over, my dear. The Ancients' plans are finished. For now, at least. You have proved to be an incredibly courageous young woman. Your mother and father would have been proud of you, just as I am. I'm sorry it had to be like this. It's not quite the inheritance I had in mind for you, but there was so little time, and so much to do. Goodbye, Alex. I will miss you.
As I gazed up at the ancient I had brought into this world to stop Pius, my mistake was made clear. This ancient could lay the world to ruin just as easily as Pius's would have. And yet, as quickly as it began, it ended. To think that once I could not see beyond the veil of reality, to see those who dwell behind. I was once a fool.
One final meta moment that the final chapter's image is the book itself, which you then see close over said image, a copy of itself, recursive and infinite forever. You've overcome the darkness that has prevailed for over 2 millennia. This accomplishment will begin a new era for humanity. Now would you like to record this grand occasion in the pages of human history? In memory of Ben Dyack. He was 80 years old. He would have been 100 years old. Producer and director Dennis Dyack? That's... Okay, no, he's not who I thought it... No, I was thinking... Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking of Gary Gygax, not Dennis Dyack. Obviously, easy to mix up with their similar sounding last names and the alliteration that both of their names have. It's like Dennis Dyack, Gary Gygax. No. Dennis Dyack is a 54-year-old game developer. He made Cyber Empires, or there's people games he worked on at least. Some of these he just has concept on and programming. But he's in credits for Cyber Empires, Fantasy Empires, Dark Legions. I've never heard of any of those games. Blood Omen, Legacy of Kain, Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem, Metal Gear Solid, The Twin Snakes. People were mentioning in particular that this game shares a lot of the voice actors with Twin Snakes because the two of them are being developed in parallel with each other. So that I imagine that middle era right there is like his golden age of his career. Blood Omen, Legacy of Kain is a hell of a thing to have on your credits. Also, his previous game being Legacy of Kain may inform some of the ideas of this game, like the way it plays, in the way that it doesn't in any really in almost no ways does it play as a horror game really. And it's like, oh, Legacy of Kain. I think I only played the demo for that back in the day, but I think that's where they added Raziel. No, Blood Omen Legacy of Kain is a top-down hack and slash looking like Diablo style game as far as I can tell. Never mind. I was thinking of a much... I think that's probably that might be the first game in the series. Legacy of Kain. Yes. The next game was Soul Reaver. That's where they added Raziel. That's the game I played the demo for, but he didn't have it. He doesn't seem to have anything to do with that. What was his name? Raziel? I think his name was. That's the cool, like, no bottom jaw, like, soul vampire creature. Whereas the original Legacy of Kain guy was the guy that looked like Proto Kratos. Big brutish guy with white skin, but it had long white hair. Okay. So he made those games, but then he went on to make, stuff I'm less fond of. He was the director of 2 Human, which I played and didn't really like very much. It was pretty monotonous. People complained about the Valkyrie mechanic where it would resurrect you every time you died and you'd have to watch a cutscene, but I'm like, is this really any different from like the normal way that you die in other games? Like, I don't know if this is really that much of a negative. At least it wasn't really a negative that stood out from the rest of the game. Then one of the first games Andrew and I ever played on Sad Games back in 2011 was X-Men Destiny. That game was not good. And that's the last game he's made, was 2011. The first game, one of the first games Andrew and I ever played for YouTube, funnily enough. God, that game was really bad. One of the funniest things, though, was that when you make your character in X-Men Destiny, there's 3 powers in the game. And I don't remember what the other ones were, but one of the powers you can choose is Density, which I mean means you're really tough and heavy and like impervious to certain attacks. Maybe is there, you know, you have density powers. But the fact that they put a density power in a game called Destiny is a hell of a choice. I'm pretty sure that's an anagram. D-E-N-S-I-T. Yeah, it's the same letters, only slightly rearranged. So it leads to a back and forth problem in that game where you constantly either read the power as a Destiny power or you read the name of the game as X-Men Density, because you just having to constantly think about both those words and constantly, it's just a hell of a strange move. Sorry, I ended up talking about this guy for the entire credits instead of the actual game. So that was Eternal Darkness. I knew it was going to be a little lower impact for me than it would have been for people that grew up with it, because its crazy, weird, meta, fuck you scares are definitely something that has become more common over the years, and games have been getting better and better at scaring you and horror and whatnot, so like that stuff wasn't going to completely wow me, but it was good to finally see it. These are often explorative little expeditions where I just want to finally answer in my head what a game is. And there's a few different cases of that. I've been slowly collecting a few different games that are versions of that. Some of them because they were famous, like Beyond Good and Evil, in like a good way, and some that were not famous and for good reasons at all. Like Azuric, or this one that I can't remember the name of right now, that I have a copy of somewhere around here that I'm thinking of, or like Star Fox Adventures and stuff like that. Stuff that I just want to finally know personally, because they have a reputation for good or ill, and instead of having it float as a hypothetical in my head as a concept and where I kind of guess at what it's like, I just kind of want to finally experience some of these games, and this is another step in me doing that. And now that we wind down from the Halloween event on this channel, the new schedule that I talked about having before Halloween will finally take hold. And the way that's going to take place is trying to keep track of which one was which. I'm going to guess. I'm pretty sure that the plan for the 12 o'clock slot is to alternate between AAA, like modern AAA and AA games, and then classic AAA and AA games, basically. The definition of classic being whatever the fuck I decided is, basically. But generally speaking, the idea is like playing games from like the 90s and the 2000s is generally the period I'm often looking at, and that's where you get to the games like this exactly. So since this was a classic game, my next game in the time slot 12 o'clock is going to be a modern AAA game. If I'm lucky, it'll be Demon's Souls. That's the plan, because I try to play all of the Souls games as they come out. They're kind of a cornerstone on the channel, and I'm looking forward to playing the remake, even though I have mixed feelings about the remake, because I don't know if I'm gonna love the idea of the remake, because I don't know if any of the changes are really going to be things that I necessarily like, but it's still an excuse to go play Demon's Souls again, which I'll totally take, because that's one of my favorite games of all time. So I want to play Demon's Souls, and if all goes well, then like tomorrow or whatever the hell should hopefully be that. And if it's not that, then that will be confirmation that I failed to find a PS5 on launch day, which I guess won't be that surprising, because it's kind of unobtainable. The people like saw the announcement about the pre-orders for the PS5 go popping up, and then immediately no one was able to get one. Like, they were unobtainable. There's a few glimmers of hope that there's people saying like, we might have one on launch day if you like choose the pickup option or whatever, and so on and so forth. So I'm just gonna hope. I'll go on like a multi-hour drive if I have to get one, because it's my job. If I can secure one anywhere in the area, but if not, then then I'll have to come up with something else to play instead of Demon's Souls, and then Demon's Souls and all other PS5 games will just be on hold and indefinitely until they become available, because they're just not really available. I don't love that feeling, but given the fact that last week was election week and all the stresses that came with, the fact that this week the only stress is, oh man, do I get to play Demon's Souls now or like a few months from now? I'll fucking take it. I'll take that stress. It's great. Oh, yum 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 yum. What a fucking upgrade. So that we'll see. But that'll be the new cycle, is that at noon every day in the current schedule, we'll alternate between modern game, which is like a game that either just came out or one from the last few years that's been on my to-do list and I just haven't quite gotten to, and then a classic game like a PS1 game, PS2 game, Xbox game, GameCube game, and so on. I have a collection sitting over here that I'd love to get to. And then at the 2 o'clock slot, once Silent Hill finishes, that will become the puzzle and indie game slot, because there just has to be more of those. This was originally a 4-way split, but I've got rid of the Let's Try slot so that it could become 2-way splits, so that all of these things could just get more coverage, because it was just way too long between puzzle game playthroughs. That was one of the main motivations. And so that'll be the new thing. But Silent Hill is not short. This game wasn't entirely short either, but I fast forwarded a bit specifically for the purposes of making way for Demon's Souls, but that might have been for naught. I'm taking a gamble here with these mega size episodes just for the sake of trying to do Demon's Souls that might not even pan through. So we'll see. But yeah, as far as the game itself, yeah, it was good to sate my curiosity and to finally have an image of what Eternal Darkness is, and now whenever it comes up in conversation, I can actually have thoughts about it instead of just think of it in those vague terms like, oh, that's the one that like deletes your saves and stuff, right? It has like the insanity effects and it starts like fucking with you, and like those were fun. They're outdated. The save deleting one is not outdated. That one's fine because it's all in game. But the other effects where they mute your TV, or they accidentally change the channel to like video 1 or whatever, those are cute, but increasingly they're gonna get outdated, the way that like people born these days don't tend to know what a floppy disk necessarily looks like and what it is and so on. If you didn't grow up they can't trick me with those effects, because the thing I'm using as a display literally doesn't do that. There is no big green text video 2 in the corner when you press certain buttons or a mute notification. In my case, I'm literally playing on a computer monitor. So like on that level, they can't work for me, but they can still be cute, where I'm like, ha, they're doing the thing, that's funny, because I recognize them. But over time, even that'll go away and people won't even recognize entirely what the game's going for with some of those effects, and then it'll just be kind of confusing. It's funny how things can get dated in that way, I suppose. But overall, I would have preferred a different kind of game. In some ways, I could almost say that this game is a good example of the kind of game that could almost use like a remake, in part because its metatextual effects are outdated, but also it mechanically doesn't make a lot of sense. Like it has a sanity meter that you can heal manually, which defeats the purpose of having sanity effects in many cases in like a Lovecraft story. Like this idea that your mind is ever degrading is completely nullified by the power. And maybe you could say that the power of the Eternal Darkness tome is like so cool that it undoes insanity as a concept, but like I don't know, that kind of feels like it defeats the purpose of this kind of telling this kind of story in the first place a little bit. But then it's also like the game isn't the magic system. I have my own criticisms of, where I'm like, as much as you want to look at this giant network of 12 spells and think of like cool ways to mix them and match them and so on, the magic system is so restrictive in how little you have per character and how long it takes to regenerate, that you can, if you do try to juggle a bunch of spells and be like, I'm gonna power myself up, then put a damage field down around myself to defend myself, and then I'm gonna send a shockwave at them, and blah 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 blah. Like, if you try to actually do a wizard fight, basically, you quickly get hamstrung by the limitations, and you get stuck in an infinite negative feedback loop of trying to maintain the spells that'll keep wearing off, but then your mana keeps running out, so you have to keep recasting your mana regeneration spell, but then the spells keep failing sometimes because you take a damage from attacks, sometimes because you take damage from insanity, and sometimes because it just doesn't work sometimes. Sometimes spells just don't do anything and you have to try again at casting them, and it's just like, at the end of the day, it really became apparent that the best thing is just to cast like one spell, which is usually just enchant weapon, the first spell they gave you in the game, and then just go hit the dudes until they die. And then if they take too much damage, then run away and try to heal yourself, then just go back to beating them with your melee weapon. The fact that most of the game's conflicts could be resolved by enchanting your melee weapon, which is the first thing you learn in the entire game, kind of highlights there just wasn't that much to it. And that's further exasperated by the fact that there just aren't that many enemies. Because, like, there's a couple of rare spawns in the case of the wizard octopus thing and the invisible asshole, but most of the fights are either zombies or the big brutes with 3 heads. Those are most of the fights in the entire game. I guess there's also the little claw guys, but like the zombies, there seems to be like 10 versions of them, but mechanically it doesn't really matter. You fight them all the same way, so who cares if there's the appearance looks different. Like sometimes it's a skeleton that's black, sometimes it's a blue mushy guy, sometimes it's a guy that has weird hologram limbs for some reason, but they all move the same and they all get taken down the same, which is that you just smack their head off, and if that doesn't work immediately, just do it more and then finish them when they're down. Like, there just isn't mechanically that much going on there, so it's kind of disappointing. And the handful of times I got genuinely stuck in this game for a bit and had some frustration mechanically, it was almost entirely because I was overthinking the combat and trying to do something too creative, and then I resolved it by just enchanting my weapon and beating them down. So on some level, there's a temptation to be like, well, if the game's so easy, then why do you have struggle with those parts? But those parts were me trying to think of the game as being more interesting than it was. And then when I defaulted back to just beating them with my stick, I was like, oh, that works. Okay, well, yep. It's like my mistake was thinking that this new encounter is a new challenge that requires new solutions, and then realizing I was wrong, and then going back to the solution I've been using the entire game, and then beating the game, and I'm like, oh, fuck. The one exception, of course, is the guardian of that one hole and he was just fucking weird. You had to cast a damage spell, but you had to cast it while he was glowing, and you had to somehow know that you had to cast it when he was glowing and not at any other time, because any other time doesn't do any damage to him. And he doesn't glow for very long, so you have to cast really specific versions of the spell. You either have to cast the weakest version of the spell the moment he starts glowing, therefore making it so you have to cast it a ton of times because it does so little damage, but at least it would go off in time, or you had to cast higher level versions of the spell, but in a way where you had to basically predict when he was going to glow in advance, and then it would go off once he had started glowing, hopefully, and if he didn't, then you just panic and cast the spell again and hope he starts glowing by the time that one ends, and it's just like, I don't love this system. I don't know, not my favorite boss fight idea, because he wasn't a challenge because he couldn't even really hurt me. So it was just a puzzle boss fight, but I didn't find the puzzle satisfying either, so I'm like, I felt like that boss was just kind of a wash. But I don't know. But yeah, that's more or less the issue though, I guess. Like storytelling and visuals and concept and so on of this game, and like its meta tricks, all that stuff was neat. And I like how they implemented a lot of the story and how a lot of that went. It really is just the gameplay. Like every single issue I take with the game is gameplay. And I don't really accept the idea of saying, oh, well, the game's old and that's why it's that way. Because like the Silent Hill games and Resident Evil games that I've played are older than this game. Hell, the original Resident Evil games are much older than this game. But this game would have come out around the same time as the Resident Evil 1 remake. which was when they already had made several Resident Evils and then went and remade the first one. So like that was like probably the 6th Resident Evil technically. And if you compare this game to Resident Evil 1's remake on a mechanical level, there's just I feel like there's a real clear winner on which one of them does a better job at making a compelling gameplay loop where there are like risk-reward systems and stakes and like a certain combination of challenge and whatnot that just makes it a more interesting experience to physically play. Whereas this game varied from kind of like tediously easy to tediously frustrating, but like it never really had like the most thrilling moments where I was like, wow, I can't believe I pulled that off, or oh man, what a nail-biting situation. It was like mostly just enemies you plow through, or a couple of enemies that are like really frustrating because the game gets like clunky and awkward and frustrating to control, and you're just like, come on, just do fucking I went through 7 menus to cast a spell, and then right when it started casting the spell, a weird lightning bolt bounced off 3 walls, then hit me, interrupting the spell, and then I lost all the energy, so I have to now run in circles to get the energy back to then recast the spell and hope it doesn't get interrupted that time. It's like, oof. That's not like, oh man, I tried to give jukes to that zombie and escape it through that hallway, but he got me. Now I have to use an herb. Dang, there goes an herb that I don't think I can afford to spend. I might be in trouble later. The way that Souls, that Resident Evil, like a survival game is, or the other side, which is like an action game, like Prince of Persia. Let's not say Prince of Persia because I haven't played them enough to use them as examples. But like most action adventure games with boss fights and fights in general, it's like, oh, I try to attack and then I try to either block their attacks or evade their attacks, and like whenever I take a hit, it's because I failed at that particular system, and that's compelling and challenging in its own different way. Like there's 2 different directions they could have gone in, and I don't think they really went in either of them very well. And I think that sometimes the whole excuse of deflecting criticism based on the age of a game can be kind of condescending to the game, because it implies this like, oh well, shucks, they didn't know any better. And like in many cases, if you look back at when these games came out, you're like, nah, there was some pretty cool shit at the time. They weren't like reinventing the wheel on that level. But I think a lot of the times when people feel that way, it's because they played the game when they were a kid, and so they didn't necessarily know better, which is fair enough. Well, not necessarily fair enough, is understandable, is what I mean to say. Is that if this was one of your formative games that you played when you were 10, then it holds a special place in your heart, and you are statistically less likely to have played all of the other games first, so it could have felt fresh and new to you without the context of like games in its own genre that may have done things better in each direction that it could have gone in, and so on. And so that's what happens. People experience games in their particular order. Like when it comes to RPGs, like one of my first exposures was Knights of the Old Republic, followed by Jade Empire and Mass Effect. And so like those are like when it comes to Western RPGs, a lot of like that forms my perspective for a lot of things. And in my personal life timeline, stuff that happened in those games felt fresh and interesting and new because I had been playing like Mario and stuff until then, or even Final Fantasy X, where it's like these don't even have choices. But that doesn't mean that they necessarily invented new things when tons of stuff like Planescape Torment already existed, and so on and so forth. Anyway, that's enough long ass ranting about all the different concepts and things and whatnot. That was Eternal Darkness. Hope those of you that already cared about it a bunch enjoyed going through it again. Hope those of you that also had this game occupy a weird mystery space in their head like it did with me finally got to get an idea of what this is. And in some cases, some people were like never heard of this game, and they got to find out about an interesting game from the past that they hadn't even heard of, which was a little bit of a surprise, but I guess inevitably some people wouldn't know about it. There is a final ending. You can look it up if you want to. I don't really want to steal anybody's videos and put them in here. You can just look it up if you want to yourself. But you have to beat the game 3 times, and I just don't see that as being a valuable use of my time. because I imagine it's basically the same playthrough, but some of the cutscenes have a different colored monster in them, basically. And functionally, the entire game mostly plays the same way, but instead of casting green spells all game, I'm going to want to cast red spells all game, and I don't think this is a game that necessarily would reward replay, because I feel like it'd pretty much play out the same way, and the majority of each playthrough is the gameplay itself, and the gameplay is specifically not necessarily the highlight of the game, so continuing to play more of that gameplay but without the novelty only sounds like a way to make me like the game less. So I'll probably look up the true ending online or something, and you're welcome to do the same. But it's something that you get by beating the game once with each element. So I beat it by having Pius pick Ulyauth, and you have to then go play the whole game again, but with Pius picking the green and red gods those times, and then defeating them as Alex and doing the whole thing and so on. And that's it's one of those things where it's like, it's fine. It's neat enough to include an extra cutscene to reward people for playing their game a bunch of times, but it's just not that cutscene is not enough carrot on the end of the stick to encourage me to do it. I don't see that. That doesn't seem worth it to me. And in fact, the idea that the entire playthrough was split into being one of 3 playthroughs, it's just not maybe the most resource worthy thing to include in the game, in part because I can't help but think that almost nobody is going to experience that, and you might have diverted resources away from making one playthrough even better by trying to make 3 campaigns that are almost identical but still have like some unique assets or some work put into them to make them different in some ways, maybe. I don't know. In part because I do think about if the game was one, I think about the idea that like if the game was one playthrough, then maybe they could have used the 3 elements more interestingly by having you actually think about them more, instead of having it almost be like, instead of the current system where it's just mostly correct to cast the same element over and over again, and then play the next playthrough casting a different element over and over again. Like that's not very interesting to me, and I think that's not the best idea. Well, thanks for watching like always, guys, and I'll see you next time.